So you've probably heard it a million times on commercials and on radio and all over the place. Your parents may have even told you this. The most sound financial and life advice you could ever get is to buy a home, right? Even in these trying and divided political times, with social unrest is quite common, that advice is still in the front of everybody's minds. Yeah, times just couldn't be weirder, but one thing that's always stood the test of time: buying a house is the American dream. As American as apple pie, baseball, and slavery, right? Just kidding on that last one. Well, hold on there. Depending on your financial and life goals, maybe buying a home is not the right thing for you. I'm gonna tell you why in this video, so be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. But let's dive right in. What's up, you guys? You're watching BTP Fusion. I'm your host, Derek West, lead software engineer, serial entrepreneur, general serial enthusiast, as well as PC game enthusiast, and all-around good guy. On BTP Fusion, our main goal is to inspire you to take action on your business or personal finance using the power of all the technology we have at our fingertips. And the technology is all there to help us accomplish all of the goals that we set out to do. If you're someone with larger-than-life ambitions that you want to accomplish, though, things like traveling the world, being your own boss, working when you want, or even owning a billion-dollar business one day, the tech is all there to allow you to do that. But the personal finances can get in the way every now and then, in unexpected ways too. For example, if you have a ton of consumer debt on credit cards, things like big screen TVs, expensive restaurants, vacations, all as consumer debt, all of a sudden you might be beholden to a job you don't like just to pay debt off. You wouldn't be able to take a risk on an idea that you have, or a business you want to start, or a new place that you want to live. You're locked in. It's sort of the same thing when you buy a house. Now I understand and agree that there are perfectly legitimate reasons why you would want to buy a house. On the same token, there are also very good reasons against it. Now, the YouTube community seems to be split into two different camps on this topic, each camp disagreeing on which is the best path to material prosperity: buying a house or not buying a house and instead renting where you live and owning what you rent out. On the one hand, you have a guy like Grant Cardone, who in times past has insisted on buying large rental properties and avoiding even smaller deals like 2 to 4 unit houses. On the other side, you have the Meet Kevin camp, or the Stephan Graham camp, who are both large proponents of buying single unit houses, in a smart way of course, fixing them up, renting them out, and getting that recurring monthly revenue from owning several, in some cases thousands of units. And then there's the camp who's just completely clueless and just buys a house, lives in it, expects it to appreciate in value, all the while they pay property taxes, HOA fees, maintenance, and upkeep. The list goes on and on. While doing this, they never factor into whether or not they will make a profit when they sell. They just look at the price they purchased it at and what they sold that same house at. Now, I'm not sure who on YouTube subscribes to that theory of home ownership, and I'm not paying attention to them at any rate. But let's discuss each theory for its merits. Looking at the clueless homeowner who just buys the line that home ownership is the American dream, and they purchase a house simply to live in it and are hoping to profit on the appreciation, or even just the hope that someday they will not have to pay rent or mortgage or something like that. So first things first, that's a noble goal. Eventually living for free is something that I recommend you try and do. Find a way to get your cost of living down as much as possible so that you can be flexible. In other words, why pay $15,000 a month in a mortgage on a mega mansion? Depending on where you live, $15,000 a month will not buy you a ton of property out in California, but that will lock you down to one spot. That'll make it harder for you to reinvest in yourself and your business. If you eventually pay that off, or even better, pay for the whole thing in cash, well, then you're living for free, quote unquote. But if you think about it, not really. You had to earn the money to pay for the house in cash, so you're technically not living for free. And unfortunately, there are no states in the union that have no property tax whatsoever on real estate ownership. All states in the union have property tax on real estate. It's just a fact. Some are worse than others. For example, I live in Texas, which has pretty steep property tax rates. Places like California also have steep property taxes. New York as well. There are several other places. I have a list for you in the description down below, but just saying, property taxes are a real thing and they occur yearly. And you'll have to pay yearly, or if you're smart, monthly, on property taxes, even if you own your home outright and don't owe a bank or a lender a dime. You also need to factor in the cost of upkeep of the property, which can vary depending on the house you buy and the neighborhood you are in, or whether or not you are in a homeowners association, which can also be a monthly recurring fee, even if you own the property outright. So really, there is no such thing as living for free, but you can live as cheaply as possible in terms of monthly recurring fees by purchasing a home outright, or by purchasing a home and then paying it off early, or even in the time frame of the loan. Now, if you do this with a reasonable house, in other words, $250,000 or less, nothing fancy, maybe a 3-bedroom, 1-car garage type of place, then you indeed will be making a sound financial move than continuing to pay rent your entire life. Avoiding all the deep math in this video, if you purchase a real cheap house and pay it off, your cost for it, aside from upkeep and property taxes, will stay fixed, i.e. zero. If you rent for the rest of your life, your rental costs will continue to go up and up and up and up, thanks to a little thing called inflation. Even if you choose to downsize your lifestyle and not live in luxury rentals and instead go live in the hood, for example, as the value of the dollar decreases, the cost of your rental domicile will go up. So what would have been $500 today will be $1,000 tomorrow. And if there's hyperinflation, then it'll be even worse. And that is a situation where you are forced to maintain a job and not necessarily live your dreams either. Now that said, even purchasing a house in that circumstance, you'll be forced to live in it for a while or rent it out if you can't sell it quickly enough. It'll also leave you locked into that property for a period of time. The second school of thought on home ownership, that is, buying single family homes or multi-family homes that are not commercial properties and rent them out. In other words, dwellings that are 4 units or less. Anything larger than that is a commercial property, as I'm sure you know. But yeah, rent them out, do that again and again until you get a portfolio of thousands of units, each of them rented out, or a percentage of them rather. And by doing that, you will have thousands upon thousands of dollars of recurring monthly revenue that is mostly quote unquote passive. You'll have to fix, your occasional broken water heater or unclog a toilet here and there. But aside from that, the revenue should keep pouring in and you won't have to do much except sip Muay Thais and some beach in Tahiti, right? Well, maybe. There is the task of actually acquiring all this property. It may not actually be easy as one would think listening to the real estate gurus who push this stuff. Actually finding houses that fit this model really takes a ton of work and research, which is definitely not passive in nature. You will have to evaluate dozens, if not hundreds of properties to find the one that fits your numbers well. In other words, is in a neighborhood that has rent prices at the right range to cover your mortgage, property taxes, and recurring maintenance fees. And also needs to be fixed up just enough so that it doesn't cost you a ton up front to make it livable, but will also provide you with an opportunity to add value. And that is to say nothing of the cost it will take you to run background checks on potential renters, cleaning up the place and making it ready for rental. All of that is active work and is definitely not something simple to do. Now, if after all of that you have the patience to do it, then that is something that you should do. The truth is, getting a loan for a home is much easier than getting a loan for a commercial property. And the truth is, if you're doing it right, it is also one of the more profitable things you could do in your entire life. Again, avoiding all the deep math here, putting down $50,000 on a $250,000 house, spending $10,000 to fix it up to where it's instantly worth, let's say, $300,000 to $320,000. Renting it out at $2,500 a month for, let's say, 2 years is insanely profitable. The rent alone that you can get from that would cover the cost of the down payment, plus $10,000 extra, all of it tax-free, according to the current rental laws in the United States and in most jurisdictions thereof. And the appreciation of the house would instantly make your investment well worth it. But remember, that actually might be the exception and not the rule. You have to buy at the right place, at the right time. If the numbers don't work, then you could end up just breaking even on the deal, and more than likely, much worse. The third school of thought, represented by Grant Cardone, and his methodology is really purchasing large rental complexes. The idea here is similar to the idea of purchasing single family houses. You find apartment complexes that maybe need a little bit of work. You fix them up, drive the rent prices up, and then you profit. That was sort of a straw man of that argument, and there's a reason for that. I feel that large apartment complex purchases are too far out of reach for your average person to even begin to think about. You really have to know the real estate game to not lose your shirt in deals of that nature. And more than likely, you'll never really pull off one of these deals yourself, unless you really focus. And I'm sure if you focus, you can do it. But are you passionate about it? Because you need to be if you're going to be successful at it. Now, if that's something that you aspire to do, you can start off on that path by buying smaller real estate like single family homes, duplexes, triplexes, fourplexes, building up a portfolio of such properties, and then using that portfolio to leverage getting into larger apartment complexes, when your finances can handle it. The reason to do that is that you will begin to get a feel for real estate. And you'll understand what it takes to make such purchases. You'll get used to dealing with the ebb and flow of dealing with real estate customers, i.e. renters. But now we get to the question at hand, why you shouldn't buy a home. If you're the type of person who requires flexibility in their life, you have big goals in your life, like owning a large business, traveling the world and being your own boss, buying a home or a large home is just going to get in the way of all those things. It's going to lock you down to a particular place, and you'll be forcing yourself to pay for it, even if you don't like your job, where you live, etc. In that instance, it's better to be mobile, rent for a while, Only purchase a home when you know that you can either afford to pay for it outright, i.e. when you exit on a business venture, or alternatively if you're not thinking that big in your life, when you feel like you're ready to settle down in one spot for more or less the rest of your life, or at least a very large chunk of it, 5 years or more. Because that is precisely what you're signing up to do when you purchase something that large. And if you can manage to keep your rental costs low, i.e. do not necessarily rent in luxury apartments in the best part of town where you live, for example, and you keep your rental costs, let's say under $1,500 a month at today's current dollar value, then actually renting a place is very financially lucrative. You can live very well doing just that, and at the same time stacking chips away so that eventually you can purchase a piece of property that can either become profitable for you while leaving you flexible, or alternatively, could be your dream home. If you're dreaming of great content on business, technology, personal finance, go on ahead and subscribe to this channel and like this video if you liked this video. We here at BTP Fusion drop great content weekly, whether it's twice a week, 3 times a week, 4 times a week sometimes, maybe even 5 times a week every once in a while. But we keep pumping out content like this weekly, so be sure to like and subscribe if you want to get in on the action. And let us know in the comments down below whether or not you are preparing to buy a house. What is your strategy? Are you getting ready to settle down? Are you looking to find a way to live for free? Are you trying to start your real estate empire? Inquiring minds need to know. So leave us a comment down below. And remember, a goal without a plan is a wish. A goal with a plan and no action is a wish list. Take action on your business and personal finances using the power of technology. And we'll catch you next time. Peace.